Hey guys, this is Spartacus here and welcome back to another video. The Vanguard multiplayer beta has officially ended and hopefully all of you took advantage of the beta while it lasted, but since the beta is over, it is time to upload my review of the beta itself and give out my personal opinions about how I'm really feeling about this game right now. And even though it is a beta, there's going to be bugs in it, there's going to be like features that we don't have access to until the full game comes out, including like new maps and of course weapons and attachments for those weapons and even kill streaks. Even though we don't have access to every single item in the multiplayer through the beta, it still gives us a really good idea what the game is going to be like when it comes out this November. And so I think this review is going to be a good conversation of what I have to talk about, because I'm going to be going everything that I don't like and everything that I do like. And spoiler alert, most of this video is going to be talking about things that I don't like, so just get ready for that part. But anyway, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into the things that I don't like about the Vanguard beta. Let's go ahead and start with map design. I was not a big fan of the maps in the beta. Gavutu, or however you pronounce the name, that's the only map I could actually tolerate, if I'm being honest with you guys. It played pretty well in my opinion for respawn game modes. I know a lot of people advocate for Search and Destroy playing really well in the beta, but I'm going to be honest with you guys, I didn't play Search and Destroy, so it's just a game mode I don't really care about personally. But Gavutu, out of all the maps, was definitely my favorite. Red Star probably is my least favorite out of all of them. And the thing about these maps that I just don't like, other than Gavutu of course, is that there's so many windows, there's so many doorways, there's so many hallways, there's sometimes open areas with not enough cover in those open areas for you to go across, and I just really don't like the map design that we saw in the beta. And it's very similar to what we saw with Modern Warfare, right? Because Modern Warfare had the same deal. There was like so many doorways, so many windows, so many hallways, and it just makes it so unpredictable where enemies might be coming from. You know, it just makes it so difficult to actually pinpoint where they might be, and it's so frustrating, especially if you're playing like an objective game mode like domination. Like, let's take the map Eagle's Nest for example. So if you guys know where the B flag domination point is on Eagle's Nest, it's in that, I guess, diner, or like, I guess, dinner table area, I don't know, something like that. But anyway, there's so many different ways you can actually get to that flag, and enemies could be coming from to take you out. So of course you kind of have the two main hallway entry points from one team's like spawn point and then the other team's spawn point. But then on the opposite ends and that B location, there's this one area where you can jump up to a broken doorway and get in through right there, right on the B flag itself, or you can go on the opposite end and go through a window and try and get through that way. And so also there's like walls that can also be broken, and glass walls that can also be broken as well, so that way you can actually get different types of cover while in that area. And so it makes it really unpredictable which way enemies are going to be coming from. You don't know if they're coming through the window, you don't know if they're coming through that hallway, you don't know if they're coming through the outside, out through that broken door entrance or whatever. Like, you just can't, like, it makes it so hard to capture the B flag, especially if you're by yourself and your teammates aren't helping you out, and the enemy teams are playing the objective, so they're coming from all these different angles, and you don't know which area to look. You just kind of have to like check and guess which way you think enemies are going to be coming from, so that way you stay alive and capture the B flag. And so that's a very good example of poor map design in my opinion, just because you have no idea where enemies could be. And then if you look at Red Star, it has that situation where there's so many different windows and doorways and entrances that enemies could be coming from. So if you're running across that courtyard where that statue is, you don't know if enemies are in those windows looking at you, or if they're looking at you on the same level as you from the other two buildings. And so it makes it really difficult to actually pinpoint where enemies are on that map. Not to mention it's snowing, so that's also a big issue as well. But still, like, there's just so many different ways people can actually, I guess, get through the map. It's basically like a maze in a way. Like, the maps aren't hard to figure out by any means, but it's just completely ridiculous how many different areas you can actually travel to on the map. There's not really like any simple linear paths that there's only one way you can get through in order to get to the other side. There's like other ways you can flank around, and it just makes it very unpredictable. It makes an uneven flow of gameplay. And then of course the last map that I haven't even mentioned in this video, which is Hotel Royal. That map is insane. Where the B flag is located, oh my goodness, I cannot tell you how many different paths you can take to get to that B flag location. You could be coming from the ceiling, you could be coming from the hallway, you could be coming from the outside area that get into the B flag location. There is so many different areas you can enter to get to the B flag. It makes it so difficult to figure out where enemies are, and that's just simply poor map design. It makes it extremely difficult to pinpoint where enemies are at all times, and that is something that I just really don't like about these maps. The other thing that I don't like is that the spawns are complete shit. Like, I cannot tell you how bad the spawns are, and at first I was kind of thinking, oh, maybe it's the combat pacing thing. You know, I am playing on, like, you know, like the Blitz combat pacing, which has the most amount of players on each team, and so maybe the spawns are just really bad for playing on that type of combat pacing just because of how many players are on the map. So I go back and switch to 6v6, which definitely feels a lot less chaotic. It definitely feels a little bit better for me to actually get the feel of the game, but the spawns are still crap. You will still spawn right in front of an enemy, or an enemy might still spawn right in front of you, or an enemy might spawn right behind you, and you'll have no idea they'll spawn there because it just makes zero sense where these spawn locations are at. Like, sometimes it will literally spawn you on an objective, like for example, the game mode patrol. There has been countless times where it has spawned me on the objective. It doesn't make any sense at all. Like, I kind of get patrol might be a little bit weird with spawns because the patrol is basically a hard point that's slowly moving around the map, and so spawns can be a little bit unpredictable in that sense, but still, like, the spawns just don't make any sense. It doesn't matter what combat pacing option you're using, the spawns are terrible. You can't get like, an enemy or enemy that's going to spawn right behind you. How are you supposed to know that's going to happen? It's so random, and it's not that they necessarily spawn behind you, they spawn like right behind you. Like, literally as soon as they spawn, they see you and they're going to take you out, and there is nothing you can do to stop that from happening. It is ridiculous. And like I said, it doesn't matter if you're playing on the 6v6 combat pacing, which is tactical. Let's see, there's tactical, assault, and blitz combat pacing. It doesn't matter which three of those you're playing, the spawns are always going to be bad. And that's kind of why I thought maybe originally they had that respawn timer, right? Because there was always this respawn timer they added into the game, just like Modern Warfare had. But then later in the beta, they took it out, and it made the game feel a lot faster paced, if I'm being honest with you, which is a good thing. However, part of me felt like the reason why they had that respawn timer is so the game actually has time to think of giving you a good chance to spawn somewhere nice. But even with that respawn timer, there were still shitty spawns. So okay, I'm just going to stop talking about spawns. They're terrible. I'm sure you guys are aware of this, but I just cannot believe in the right mind who came up with these spawns. Like, what in the right mind someone actually decided these types of spawn points was good, that whatever algorithm they're using to create these type of spawns. It's just terrible. I don't know whose idea it was, but it was just absolutely terrible idea for them to put in the game. Another thing is that the time to kill is way too fast, and the headshot multiplier for every weapon is too high, and it just makes it really unbalanced when coming into gunfights, because we do have flinch in the game, and so we're back to that old situation in the older Call of Duty games where when we shoot at an enemy, like, their gun starts to flinch upwards, and so their bullets are going to be hitting you in the head, and they're going to be able to get the kill even though you had to jump on them all along. And so gunfights just feel really inconsistent because of the headshot multiplier and the fact that the game already has a fast time to kill, and so that's another thing that I really don't like. And of course, there's ammo types, right? I've talked about the subsonic rounds in its own video before I uploaded this one, and make sure you guys go ahead and check it out if you guys really want me to go in detail about that. But some of the ammo types I think can definitely be a big problem. Of course, we didn't have access to all of them in the beta, but the subsonic rounds, for example, just completely changes the way the game can be played. Like, it's a complete counter to the radar perk, which I really don't like, which brings up my next point. There's no classic minimap. Why don't we have a classic minimap in this game? Nobody liked the minimap system in Modern Warfare. In fact, back in Modern Warfare, we weren't even supposed to have a minimap. The only way that we would have a minimap pop up is if we had a UAV active, and because of so much feedback, they actually brought the minimap back into Modern Warfare's multiplayer. But guess what? It's not the classic minimap because you still can't see enemy red dots when they're shooting a gun loud and clear. It's the same deal here in Vanguard. It's so stupid. I don't know who the hell thought that was a good idea, but hey, at least on the bright side, we have a radar perk to make it a classic minimap. Oh, that's freaking amazing. I guess it's better as a step in the right direction than what Modern Warfare had, but why can't we have a classic minimap? Doesn't make any sense at all. And like I said, the subsonic rounds is a literal counter to the radar perk, which I think is just ridiculous. Another thing is that dead silence is not a perk. We have it as a field upgrade in the game, and even though footsteps are pretty silent, it should definitely just still be a perk in the game. Having it only temporarily for a limited amount of time as a field upgrade, I think is a huge no for me, and it's something that did not go very well in Modern Warfare in my opinion, and I just know it's not going to go very well in the full game when Vanguard comes out. And just based on what I've seen here in the beta, it wasn't a huge deal just because the audio is really bad, which we'll get into in just a second. But yeah, dead silence needs to be a perk. It gives you a reason to actually rush enemies without them recognizing that you're near them, because because listening to footsteps requires zero skill at all. There is no skill listening to footsteps. Modern Warfare's audio was too good that footsteps were extremely loud, so everybody just camped their asses off in a corner and just waited for you to come by because they can hear you from a mile away. Vanguard, that's not the case though, and so once they do get the audio to like get fixed up before launch and stuff like that, I do imagine the footstep audio is going to be a lot louder, and so therefore that's why Dead Silence needs to be a perk and not a field upgrade. Another thing about Vanguard's multiplayer is that there's no factions, so everybody could be using the same skin if they really wanted to. It doesn't matter if they're on the same team or not. Everybody can use the same skin as what operator they're using, and so it makes it really difficult to actually pinpoint who enemies are. People were giving suggestions that maybe enemy players like us who are playing the game, when we see enemy players, they should have more of like some sort of red bandana around their arm or something to indicate that they really are an enemy. Obviously, if their name pops up red, you know it's an enemy, even though I don't find this to be a huge issue right now, but I can definitely see why a lot of people complain about it, and it's something I thought I'd bring up here in this video because I definitely think having two different factions just makes a lot of sense, especially in a World War II era Call of Duty game. Like, we literally had Axis and Allies during World War II, so I don't see why we wouldn't have any factions to play as in the full game of Vanguard. So maybe they'll change something like this in the future, who knows, we'll just have to wait and see. But right now, not a huge bad thing in the game, but it can be very detrimental later on, even though we'll probably get new operator skins and stuff which can differentiate everybody who's playing the game. But as of right now in the beta, it was just something that definitely needs to be a part of the game. Now let's move on to audio, which I kind of talked about a little bit with the whole Dead Silence thing, but audio is so bad in this game. I feel like I have to turn up the volume on my headset to actually be able to hear things, but when I do that, the gunshots are too loud, like the actual environment around me isn't loud enough, and like I said, footsteps that aren't very loud either. I think they could definitely turn them up a little bit, but at the same time, I'm kind of happy that we didn't have loud footsteps because it made the game a lot faster paced in my opinion. But yeah, the audio just seems really off. Nobody can really figure out how to fix it properly, and so hopefully they can do something about it to actually make it a lot better. I don't know how you screw up on the audio this bad. I've never played a Call of Duty game that had this bad of audio, and so hopefully it does get fixed later on. It's not something I'm too worried about, but it's just something that I would like to bring up in this video because it is something that I did experience in the beta, and it's something that really irritated me every time I was playing. Another thing is mounting. Mounting, I do see a lot of people use this in the beta, but even though it didn't really seem like a lot of people were just camping and mounting most of the time, it's still something that I don't like because for one thing, it makes your gun have like zero recoil, and it's super easy to stay accurate while you're mounted on any object in the game. Another thing is blind fire. I've never seen anybody blind fire in the beta. I don't think I've come across one person who's tried to blind fire me. I've never seen a teammate try to blind fire. I've gotten one blind fire kill before, which was pretty satisfying, not gonna lie, and so it's good to know that the blind fire feature isn't really that big of a deal. However, when the full game does come out, I imagine there is going to be a hardcore mode, and I can definitely see people eventually later on when the game already comes out, people are going to take advantage of blind fire because the guns are just going to be a one-shot kill, 1 to 2 shot kills. They're just going to blind fire using a fully automatic SMG or assault rifle around some corner and just spray and pray at enemies, and just hopefully they get a bullet on them, because the hip fire, because when you blind fire, you're basically hip firing, and so but it makes your bullet spread really tight, and so in hardcore mode I can see this definitely being an issue when the full game comes out. However, in the actual beta itself, it wasn't a big deal. However, mounting I really don't like because it totally promotes camping. It promotes people to not move at all, which is something that I really don't like it, and so this is something I'm really worried when the full game comes out. And the reason why in the beta I didn't really see it too much is I think because since it was a beta, most people who are playing it are really hardcore Call of Duty fans. They don't usually play like casuals, and casuals usually camp their asses off and mount wherever they can go. So yeah, that's why I don't really like the mounting thing. There's just no point of it. Like, what's the point of even having it? It doesn't, like, I just don't see the point of having it in the game. And the last thing I have to complain about, which isn't like necessarily something to actually really complain about, it's something that I have a problem on my end personally, and that is that snipers and the death machine kill streak cannot shoot when I'm using trigger stoppers on my controller. So I actually did use a controller while playing the beta. I also played the PC version as well, but one thing I noticed, so I have trigger stoppers on my Xbox Elite controller, and what that means is that you don't pull the trigger, the Xbox like triggers all the way down, it only goes like partly way down, and I've never really had a problem with this in the past, except for when I'm using vehicles in video games like Rocket League or driving a vehicle in Warzone. It doesn't go at its full throttle, and the same thing is said here when I use the Goliath, for example. The Goliath, I don't really care about. However, with snipers, I can't shoot it if I have a trigger stopper enabled on my controller. So the only way to actually prevent this from working while still using the trigger stopper is going into my settings and changing my dead zone to 0. Like, I can't be 1, it can't be 2. The dead zone has to be 0 in order for the sniper to shoot. But the problem is, sometimes when I pull the trigger when my dead zone is 0, the sniper won't shoot, or there'll be this delay where the sniper shoots a split second later after I've already pulled the trigger. And like I've already said, sometimes it doesn't even shoot at all, which is just completely ridiculous. And the same thing can be said with the death machine. I don't know why, but sometimes when my dead zone is at 0 and I'm using a trigger stopper, it also won't shoot. So I'm like spamming the trigger, like just keep tapping it, hopefully it'll eventually fire, and sure enough it eventually will. But it's just like, I don't know. This is something that I never had a problem with before in Call of Duty games. All the snipers, the like kill streaks, like the death machine and whatnot, they've all been able to shoot every time I've used a trigger stopper. So why is it here in Vanguard I have to turn the trigger stopper off in order to shoot a sniper, or put my dead zone at 0 just for it to like shoot half the time? It doesn't make any sense. Now I could just keep my trigger stoppers off like permanently, but you know, I'm so used to having them stop at a certain point that it just feels weird, like pushing them all the way in. I don't know. That's just a weird situation that I did tweet out to Sledgehammer Games, and hopefully they do fix it in the full game or eventually in the future. But as of right now, when I'm using a controller, that's something that I really don't like. Okay, so we've pretty much covered everything that I don't like about the beta. Now let's go ahead and start talking about things that I do like, because guess what? There are things that I like about this beta that I actually experience. And so the first thing I want to mention is that movement speed is better than Modern Warfare. This game is like basically a copy and paste from Modern Warfare. That's just how I feel. But I will admit the movement definitely felt faster than Modern Warfare, including the attachments you put on your gun. We can get up to a total of 10 attachments on a single gun, which is crazy to think about. But with the attachments that we had available to use in the beta, it didn't seem like most of them restricted your movement speed, which is a good thing, because that was a huge problem I had with Modern Warfare. It seems like all the attachments you would put on your gun would just make you move as slow as possible, while in Vanguard, it seems like you can still move at your full potential using 10 attachments, assuming you're using the right ones, of course. Now, don't get me wrong, there are attachments within Vanguard that do slow down your movement speed, but there's also other attachments that increase your movement speed. And so I felt like overall, when I had 10 attachments on my gun, I was moving pretty fast, and that's something that I definitely like, because it promotes people to actually have a more aggressive playstyle instead of actually playing like a little bitch and sitting in a corner and camping the whole time. So that's something I definitely appreciated when playing the beta. The next thing that I like kind of ties in with the first thing I just mentioned, but I didn't really realize anybody camping in this game. Sure, you had snipers sitting back and trying to pick people off. Like, I mean, we see that in pretty much every video game, but it wasn't like everybody on the enemy team was just sitting in a corner and waiting for you to come around so they can take you out. It actually felt like people were playing aggressive, and that's something that I like. Even if I was getting my ass kicked by like some pump stompers and they were just bum rushing me everywhere I was spawning, but either way, I'm glad people are playing aggressive and not a lot of people are actually camping, even though this is a huge problem and concern that I have when the full game does come out, because I'm afraid that a lot of people are going to be camping once they fix the audio and the footsteps in the game. The sounds is going to become a lot louder too. The footstep audio is going to become a lot louder. I completely butchered what I just said there, but either way, you get what I'm saying. And so, yeah, I was pretty impressed with nobody camping, but that might just because the audio was pretty low, and so that can just convince people to just move a lot more. But anyway, that is something I definitely enjoyed when playing the beta. Another thing were some of the game modes like Patrol and Champion Hill. These are two new game modes. We talked about Patrol a little bit, and I did like it. The spawns were pretty spotty, not gonna lie, but the actual game mode itself I think is great, because it's like Hardpoint, except the Hardpoint location is slowly moving around the map the entire time, and I like that. I really do, and it makes it to where you kind of have to stay out in the open and try and protect yourself as best as possible. And so Patrol, great game mode. I definitely can see myself playing it when the full game comes out. And Champion Hill, which is kind of like a gunfight tournament type game mode, I love it. Oh my goodness, you guys, Champion Hill is so much fun. I really hope I get some friends that play this game. I know most of my friends are not going to buy Vanguard, but Champion Hill itself is a lot of fun. And if you guys didn't give it a chance, I highly recommend it when the game does come out. It is such a fun game mode. It's like a tournament style gunfight mode, whatever the case may be. You can buy items during buy rounds, and I don't know. I loved it. I played maybe 4 games before before making this video, and out of the 4 games, 3 of them I actually got in the top 3, and then one of them I actually did end up getting first place, and it just feels really satisfying. Great game mode all around. And another thing is that some of the guns require a higher skill to use in order to be successful using those certain guns. So for example, the M1 Grand is a great example of a high skill, high reward type weapon. If you can manage the recoil on that gun, it'll be a lot easier to actually take out targets. Now, of course, there's some shotguns, like was it the fully auto shotgun? Not fully auto, it's a semi-auto shotgun. Can't remember the name exactly, but I think it's the auto loading shotgun. That might be what it's called. That gun has extremely high recoil. Holy smokes, they really have to nerf the recoil on that thing. It is just insanely bad. And so yeah, the shotguns are completely broken. They're definitely going to have to buff them when the game comes out. But the M1 Grand, for example, I think is in a good spot because it definitely requires a lot of patience and a lot more skill to use if you want to be able to use it very well against enemies. And so that's something I definitely noticed with some of the weapons here in Vanguard's beta, is that some weapons do require a high skill gap in order to use them, and that's something that I really like. And this last point I'm about to make, which is just kind of a funny one that I'm just throwing out there, is I feel like my lethals, like using my grenades, actually get me kills, because I don't believe there is a perk in the game that was equivalent to a flak jacket where you're kind of like, you take less damage from explosives. We do have the armor system with the field upgrade, but of course not a lot of people use the armor field upgrade because you did unlock it a lot later level in the beta. But either way, the actual like grenades that every time I threw, like just always killed somebody, and I really appreciate that. Back in Black Ops Cold War, I feel like my lethals don't get any kills. Like everybody uses flak jacket in Black Ops Cold War. Like there's really no reason why you wouldn't use flak jacket in that game. So I feel like in Black Ops Cold War, my lethals can never get kills, while here in Vanguard they can get kills, and that really makes me happy because I feel like I'm not wasting my throw every time I'm using a grenade, which is awesome to see. Another thing is I'm just throwing that out there. I don't have a clip to show this, unfortunately, because I was playing on PC and I wasn't recording at the time, but I actually got a 5-man grenade kill. With a single grenade, I got 5 kills with it. I was playing like Blitz Patrol or something like that. So like the combat pacing was Blitz, and I was on the game mode Patrol. I got a 5-man feed with a single grenade, which was so satisfying. Just hearing my teammates' reactions were just hilarious, and I wish I had that recorded, but that was like probably one of the best clips I had in the beta, and that really makes me upset I didn't have it recorded, but I had to share it with you guys because of how happy it made me. But either way, this is it for the review, you guys. There is probably some things that I'm going to forget after I've already made the video and uploaded to YouTube that I wish I would have said in the video, but that's okay because we still have the full game to come out. There's still a lot of things to look forward to. I am very optimistic about this game, even though I didn't really enjoy my time playing the beta because it was just so frustrating, just dying from shitty spawns, from losing these inconsistent gunfights, it felt like, and I was just not having a good time with the beta. Gonna be honest with you, it gave me a lot of PTSD from Modern Warfare 2019, and that is not a good thing at all. We should avoid what Modern Warfare 2019 does, but unfortunately it looks like we're going in that direction, which is something I am not happy about. Either way, that's it for the video, guys. I hope you stuck through it all. If you did, make sure you leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more Call of Duty videos every single day, and I shall catch you guys later.